Princess Zera stood frozen in the grand crystal hall of her home planet. The shimmering walls around her seemed to pulse with a strange energy. But nothing felt stranger than the words that had just left her mother's lips. The queen had called this emergency meeting of the royal court, and now Zera understood why everyone looked so serious. "You want me to marry a human?" Zera's voice cracked as she spoke. Her skin, which normally glowed with a soft blue light, began flickering between different colors, a clear sign of her emotional turmoil. Queen Lyra nodded slowly, her own glow dimming with sadness. "Our world is dying, my dear daughter. The great crystals that have powered our civilization for thousands of years are losing their strength. Without new energy, our people will not survive another decade." Zera looked around the room at the faces of the council members. These were beings she had known since childhood, aliens who had watched her grow up in the palace corridors. Their expressions told her everything. This was not a choice, but a necessity. "But mother, humans are so different," Zera whispered. "They live for such a short time. They can't even communicate through thought like we do. How could I possibly connect with such a creature?" The queen activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images of Earth appeared, showing blue oceans and green forests. The humans have discovered something called quantum minerals. These special stones can recharge our crystal cores and save our world. But they will only share this precious resource if we form a strong alliance with them. "And the strongest alliance is marriage," added Elder Kef, the oldest member of the council. His ancient voice carried the weight of centuries of wisdom. "This is how civilizations have bonded since the beginning of time." Zera felt her legs give way, and she sank into her crystal throne. The cool surface usually brought her comfort, but today it felt cold and unwelcoming. "What do we know about this human I'm supposed to marry?" Her mother gestured, and the hologram changed to show a young man with brown hair and kind eyes. "His name is Prince Alex of the Northern Territories on Earth. He is 28 years old by their measurement, which makes him a mature adult in their society. He studies their planet's environment and works to protect it. Much like you care for our crystal gardens." 28 years, Zera repeated in disbelief. "Mother, I'm 847 years old. To him, I must seem ancient, actually. Dear one, their years are much shorter than ours in our time measurement. He would be about your age. The scientists have calculated that you are quite well matched in terms of life experience." Zera studied the image of the human prince. He did look kind, she had to admit, but he also looked so fragile, so temporary. His skin didn't glow, his eyes held no inner light, and she couldn't sense any telepathic ability from the recording. "How can I love someone I cannot even speak to properly?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Queen Lyra moved closer to her daughter's throne. "Do you remember the stories I told you about your father and me? When I first met him, he was from the Andromeda system. His people communicated through color changes in their hair. While we used thought-speech, we seemed completely incompatible. But you learned to understand each other," Zera said, remembering the beautiful love stories she had heard countless times as a child. "More than that, we discovered that love finds a way to bridge any gap. Your father taught me that differences make a relationship stronger, not weaker. He showed me colors I had never imagined, and I shared with him the peace of mind-to-mind connection." Zera stood up from her throne and walked to the great window that looked out over the crystal city. Below, she could see her people going about their daily lives, unaware that their world was slowly dying. Children played in the floating gardens, their laughter creating tiny sparkles in the air. Elders meditated near the healing springs, their wisdom flowing like gentle streams. "All of this will disappear if I don't marry this human," she said. Not really asking, but needing to hear it confirmed. Double quotes, "Yes, my daughter. But think of it not as losing your freedom, but as gaining the power to save millions of lives." Zera touched the window, and it responded to her emotional state by showing her reflection in different colors. Right now, she looked afraid and confused, her usual confident blue replaced by swirls of worried purple and uncertain yellow. "What if he finds me frightening? What if he cannot accept someone who looks so different from his own kind?" Elder Kef spoke up again. The humans have agreed to this arrangement, Princess. Their prince knows exactly what you are and has consented to the marriage. From what our ambassadors tell us, he is as nervous as you are. But he is willing to try for the sake of both our worlds. Nervous, Zara repeated, finding some comfort in the word. So he is not completely confident about this either. No one could be confident about something so unprecedented, her mother said gently. This will be the first marriage between our species and theirs. You will be making history, creating a bridge between two completely different forms of life. Zara turned back to look at the hologram of Prince Alex. Something in his expression reminded her of how she felt when she had to give speeches to the council, determined but scared, willing but uncertain. When would this marriage take place? She asked. The negotiations will take several months. You would have time to learn about human culture, and he would learn about ours. The actual ceremony would happen next year, giving both of you time to prepare. And where will we live? You would split your time between both worlds, 6 months here, 6 months on Earth. It is part of the treaty that both planets benefit from your presence. Zara closed her eyes and tried to imagine living on Earth. She had seen pictures of their cities made of metal and glass, so different from her crystal palaces. She thought about breathing their thick atmosphere and dealing with their strange weather patterns, most challenging of all. She thought about living without the constant mental connection she shared with her own people. But then she thought about the alternative. Her beautiful world would slowly lose its light. The crystal caves where she had played as a child would go dark. The singing flowers in the royal gardens would fall silent. Her people would fade away like dying stars. I need time to think, she said finally. Of course, dear one. But not too much time. Every day we delay, our crystals grow dimmer. That night, Zara walked alone through the palace gardens. The crystal flowers hummed their ancient songs, and the floating lanterns cast rainbow shadows. On the pathways, this was the world she would be fighting to save. But it was also the world she would have to leave behind. She stopped at her favorite spot, a small waterfall that flowed upward instead of down, defying what humans would call gravity. The water sparkled with tiny lights, each drop containing a memory of rain from 1,000 years ago. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, she whispered to the glowing stream. But deep in her heart, she already knew what her answer would be. She was a princess, and her people needed her. Whether she married a human, a robot, or a creature made of pure energy, she would do what was necessary to keep her world alive. Tomorrow, she would tell her mother yes. Tonight, she would say goodbye to the life she had always imagined for herself, and try to make peace with the unknown future that awaited her among the stars. 3 days had passed since Princess Zara agreed to marry the human prince. She thought she understood what she was getting into, but her mother had other plans. Early that morning, Queen Lyra appeared at her daughter's bedroom door with a serious expression. Come with me, Zara. There's something you need to see. They walked through corridors Zara had never explored before, deeper into the palace than she had ever been. The crystal walls here were older, their glow much dimmer than the bright hall she knew. As they descended, the air grew cooler and the familiar humming sound of their world's energy grew fainter. Where are we going, Mother? To the heart of our world. You need to understand exactly what we're fighting to save. They reached a massive door made of pure crystal, so clear it was almost invisible. Queen Lyra placed her hand on a scanner, and the door slowly dissolved into sparkling dust. Beyond it lay a cavern so enormous that Zara couldn't see the other side. But what took her breath away was what filled the cavern. Thousands upon thousands of crystals, each one as tall as a building, stretched out before them. These were the power sources of their entire civilization, the ancient crystals that had kept their world alive for millions of years, and they were dying. Where once these magnificent structures had blazed with brilliant light, now only about half of them glowed at all. Many had turned a dull gray color, and some had even begun to crack and crumble. Oh no, Zara whispered, her own skin dimming with shock. I had no idea it was this bad. Her mother nodded sadly. We've been hiding the truth from our people to prevent panic. but you needed to see this before making your final decision about the marriage. They walked along a narrow path between the giant crystals, up close. Zara could see the intricate patterns inside each one, swirling galaxies of light that had once danced with incredible energy. Now they barely flickered. "How long do we have?" Zara asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. "Our scientists estimate 18 months, maybe 2 years at most. After that, we won't have enough power to maintain our atmosphere. Our people will have to evacuate to other worlds. If any will accept us." Zara stopped walking and stared at one particularly large crystal that had completely lost its light. "And the human minerals can really fix this, according to our research. Yes. The quantum minerals they've discovered contain a type of energy we've never seen before. Just a small amount could recharge our entire crystal network and keep it running for thousands more years." They sat down on a bench carved from solid crystal, looking out over the dying power source of their world. Queen Lyra was quiet for a long moment before she began to speak again. "I want to tell you something I've never shared with anyone, not even the council. When I was your age, I faced a similar choice." Zara turned to look at her mother with surprise. "What do you mean? Your father wasn't from a neighboring planet as everyone believes. He was from a completely different galaxy, a place so far away that the journey took months even with our fastest ships. His people were nothing like us. They had no permanent form and could change their appearance at will. Father could shapeshift." Zara had never heard this story before. "When I first met him, I was terrified. He appeared as a cloud of silver mist with glowing eyes. I couldn't understand how I could possibly marry such a being. But our world was facing a different crisis then, a plague that was killing our crystal gardens. His people had the cure." Queen Lyra smiled, remembering the first time he tried to take solid form. "To make me more comfortable, he accidentally appeared as a 6-legged creature with purple fur. I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. That's when I realized that despite our differences, we could find joy together." "But how did you learn to love him?" "Slowly, and with lots of patience from both sides. He taught me that love isn't about finding someone exactly like you. It's about finding someone who makes you want to become a better version of yourself. Your father showed me parts of the universe I never knew existed, and I helped him understand the beauty of having a permanent home." Zara thought about this as they continued walking through the crystal cavern. "What happened when you had to live on his world?" "That was the hardest part. Everything was constantly changing, the buildings, the landscape, even the color of the sky. I felt lost and confused for months, but gradually, I began to see the beauty in that constant transformation. And when he came to live here, he struggled with our unchanging crystal structures. He felt trapped at first. How did you make it work?" "We learned to appreciate what each other brought to the relationship. He showed me how to be flexible and embrace change, while I taught him the peace that comes from having a stable foundation. Together, we became stronger than either of us could have been alone." They had reached the center of the cavern, where the largest crystal of all stood dim and gray. This was the master crystal, the one that controlled all the others. "If this one dies, they all die," Queen Lyra explained, "and with it, our entire civilization." Zara reached out to touch the massive crystal. It was still warm, but she could feel its energy fading like a dying heartbeat. "Tell me about Prince Alex." "What? Do you really know about him? More than I told you before?" "He's not just a prince by birth. He earned his title by working to save his planet's environment. He spent years studying how to protect Earth's forests and oceans. In many ways, he's already doing what you do with our crystal gardens. So, he understands the responsibility of caring for a world. Yes, and according to our ambassadors, he's already begun learning our language and studying our culture. He's taking this marriage as seriously as you are." Zara felt a small spark of hope. "What else?" "He lost his parents when he was young and was raised by his grandmother. She taught him to be kind and patient, qualities that will serve him well in understanding our ways. He's also an artist. He creates beautiful paintings of nature." "An artist?" Zara repeated, intrigued. On her world, artistic ability was considered a sign of deep spiritual connection. "There's something else, dear one. When our ambassadors told him about you, about your love for the crystal gardens and your telepathic abilities, he wasn't frightened. He was fascinated. He asked dozens of questions about how you communicate with plants and whether you could teach him. This surprised Zara more than anything else. Most beings from other worlds found their telepathic abilities strange or unsettling. He wants to learn from me, he said, and I quote, "If I'm going to marry someone with such incredible gifts, I want to understand and appreciate them fully." Those don't sound like the words of someone who sees you as just a political necessity. They began the long walk back to the surface, passing the dying crystals that held their world's fate. Zara's mind was spinning with new information and possibilities. Mother, what if I can't adapt to Earth? What if their air is too thick, or their gravity too strong, or their emotions too chaotic for me to handle? Then you'll learn to adapt, just as I did. And Prince Alex will help you, just as your father helped me. The beautiful thing about love, my daughter, is that it gives you strength you never knew you had. As they reached the crystal door that led back to the palace, Zara took one last look at the cavern full of dying light. Tomorrow, she would begin her preparations for a journey to another world, to meet a being unlike any she had ever encountered. But tonight, she finally understood that she wasn't just saving her people, she was opening the door to possibilities she had never imagined. "I'm ready to meet him," she said quietly. "I'm ready to try." Queen Lyra smiled and put her arm around her daughter. "Then let's begin planning the most important journey of your life." The day had finally arrived, after months of preparation. Princess Zara was about to meet her future husband face to face. She stood in her private chambers, staring at herself in the crystal mirror. Her servants had dressed her in the most beautiful gown they could create, a flowing dress that shifted colors like the aurora, designed to show the humans how magnificent their culture could be. But beneath all that beauty, Zara was terrified. "What if he takes one look at me and runs away?" she asked her closest friend, Kira, who was helping her with final preparations. "Then he would be the biggest fool into galaxies." Kira replied, adjusting the glowing jewels in Zara's hair. "You look absolutely stunning." The meeting was taking place on a space station built specifically for this historic moment. It floated between Earth and Zara's home world, neutral territory where both species could feel comfortable. As Zara's ship approached the station, she pressed her face against the window, trying to get her first glimpse of the structure humans had helped design. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, where her people built with flowing, organic curves. The human sections of the station were all straight lines and sharp angles, where her architecture glowed with inner light. There's reflected light from the outside. It was beautiful in its own way, but so completely different from everything she knew. "Remember," her mother said, placing a gentle hand on Zara's shoulder. "He is probably just as nervous as you are. This is as new for his people as it is for ours." The docking process took forever, or at least it felt that way to Zara. Her heart was beating so fast she was sure everyone could hear it. Finally, the doors opened, and she found herself walking down a corridor toward the meeting room where her future awaited. The door slid open with a soft whoosh, and there he was, Prince. Alex stood near a large window looking out at the stars. He was taller than she had expected, with kind brown eyes and dark hair that looked slightly messy, as if he had been running his hands through it nervously when he saw her. His eyes widened with wonder rather than fear, which immediately made Zara feel a little better. For a long moment, they just stared at each other across the room. Zara's skin was flickering through different colors as her emotions shifted, blues of nervousness, purples of uncertainty, and tiny flashes of pink curiosity. Alex seemed fascinated by the light show rather than frightened by it. "Princess Zara," he said finally, his voice much gentler than she had expected. "You're even more beautiful than the holograms showed." Zara felt her cheeks warm, and she knew they were probably glowing brighter than usual. "Thank you, Prince Alex. You are not what I expected either. In a good way, I hope." He smiled, and Zara noticed that humans showed emotion differently than her people did. Instead of changing colors, they moved their facial muscles in interesting ways. "Yes, in a good way. You seem less frightening than I had imagined. Alex laughed, a sound that was completely foreign to Zara, but somehow pleasant. I was thinking the same thing about you. I was worried you might read my thoughts and discover how nervous I am. I would never intrude on your mind without permission. Zara said quickly. That would be incredibly rude by our standards. Really? I thought all your people could just hear everything everyone was thinking all the time. Oh no, that would be terrible. We have very strict rules about mental privacy. I can sense your emotions if you're feeling them very strongly, but your actual thoughts are completely your own unless you choose to share them. This seemed to relax Alex considerably. He gestured toward two chairs that had been set up near the window. Would you like to sit? I have so many questions about your world, if you don't mind answering them. As they settled into their chairs, Zara found herself studying Alex's face. His expressions were so different from what she was used to, but she was beginning to understand. The slight crinkle around his eyes meant he was genuinely happy, not just being polite. I have questions too, she admitted, starting with, how do you stand living such short lives? Doesn't it make you feel rushed all the time? Alex considered this seriously. I suppose it does, in a way, but maybe that's not entirely bad. Because we don't have as much time, we try to make every moment count. We love harder, work faster, and appreciate beauty more intensely because we know it won't last forever. Zara had never thought about it that way. On my world, we have time to consider every decision 4 years before acting. Sometimes I wonder if we miss opportunities because we're so careful. And sometimes I wonder if we make mistakes because we act too quickly, Alex replied. Maybe together we can find a balance. Their conversation was interrupted when Alex's assistant brought them refreshments. Zara watched in fascination as Alex picked up a small cup and brought it to his lips. The liquid inside was dark and steaming. What is that? She asked. Coffee. It's a drink made from beans that grow on our planet. It helps us stay alert. He paused. Can you eat and drink the same things we do? Our scientists have been working on that. They've created supplements that will help me process your food. And they're developing special meals that will give you the nutrients you need from our cuisine. Alex looked relieved. I was worried about that. I kept imagining us sitting at opposite ends of a table, eating completely different meals. Actually, Zara said, her confidence growing, I brought something from my world for you to try. If you're willing. She reached into a small bag and pulled out what looked like a glowing fruit. This is a crystal apple. It grows in our royal gardens and tastes like happiness, if happiness had a flavor. Alex stared at the glowing fruit with obvious curiosity and just a hint of nervousness. It won't hurt me, will it? Not at all. Our scientists tested it thoroughly. It might make you feel a little lightheaded with joy, but that's completely harmless. Taking a deep breath, Alex accepted the fruit and took a small bite. His eyes immediately widened, and a huge smile spread across his face. Oh wow, it's like eating sunshine, and it makes me feel like I could fly. Zara couldn't help but laugh at his reaction. That's exactly how we describe it to children. You should see your face right now. You look absolutely delighted. I am delighted. This is incredible. Alex took another bite, still grinning. If this is what your food is like, I can't wait to try more. And I'm curious about your coffee, Zara said. May I? Alex looked concerned. Are you sure? It's pretty strong, and I don't know how it might affect your system. Our medical team cleared it. Besides, if we're going to share a life, we should share experiences too. She took a small sip and immediately made a face that sent Alex into fits of laughter. It's so bitter. How do you drink this willingly? It takes getting used to, Alex said, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. Maybe we can find something to add to it that makes it more appealing to your taste. As the day continued, they discovered more differences and similarities. Alex was amazed by Zara's ability to communicate with the plants in the station's garden, while Zara was fascinated by his paintings of Earth's landscapes. He showed her images of snow-covered mountains and vast deserts, while she shared memories of crystal caves and floating islands. The breakthrough moment came when Alex asked to see one of Zara's childhood memories. With some hesitation, She allowed him to touch her hand while she projected an image directly into his mind. Her first visit to the Crystal Gardens as a small child. The wonder she felt at seeing flowers that sang in harmony. When the connection ended, Alex had tears in his eyes. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. The way you felt in that moment, like the whole universe was full of music. You understood it. Zara said in amazement. Most beings from other worlds find our memory sharing strange or overwhelming. It wasn't strange at all. It was like seeing through the eyes of wonder itself. As their first meeting came to an end, both Zara and Alex realized something important had changed. The stranger they had feared meeting had become someone they genuinely wanted to know better. I have one more question, Alex said as they prepared to part ways. Are you still afraid of marrying me? Zara considered this carefully. I'm still nervous about the unknown. But I'm no longer afraid of you, actually. I'm starting to think this might be the beginning of something wonderful. Alex smiled that crinkly-eyed smile again. I was hoping you'd say that, because I feel exactly the same way. 2 months had passed since Princess Zara and Prince Alex first met on the space station. What started as awkward conversations had slowly grown into something neither of them had expected. Genuine friendship. Every few days, they would connect through advanced video technology that allowed them to see and speak to each other across the vast distance between their worlds. Today was different, though. Alex had set up something special in his palace gardens on Earth, while Zara waited in her crystal chambers, curious about what surprise he had planned. Are you ready for this? Alex asked, his image flickering slightly on the communication screen. I've been working on this for weeks. I'm ready, Zara replied, though she had no idea what to expect. Suddenly, her room filled with the most beautiful music she had ever heard. It wasn't like the crystal songs of her world, but something entirely different, flowing melodies created by instruments she didn't recognize. Alex appeared to be sitting in a garden, surrounded by musicians holding strange objects that created sound. This is a string quartet, Alex explained, gesturing to the 4 humans with their instruments. I thought you might like to experience Earth music. I know it's different from your crystal harmonies, but Alex, it's wonderful. Zara's skin began glowing with warm golden colors, her body's way of showing pure joy, the way this sounds. Weave together. It's like watching emotions dance. Alex's face lit up with pride. I was hoping you'd feel that way. Music is one of the things I love most about being human. We use it to express feelings that words can't capture. We do the same thing with our crystal songs, but this is so different. Your music has this urgency to it, like it's trying to pack a lifetime of feeling into just a few minutes. That's exactly right. Because our lives are shorter, our art tends to be more intense, more immediate. After the musicians finished playing, Alex showed Zara around his palace grounds through a portable camera. She was amazed by the variety of plants that grew there, not the singing crystals of her world, but green growing things that swayed in the wind and changed with the seasons. Everything here is so temporary, she observed, watching leaves fall from a tree. But that makes it beautiful in a way I never understood before. And everything in your world is so permanent and eternal, Alex replied. That gives it a different kind of beauty, the peace of knowing something will last forever. Their friendship had grown deeper through these shared experiences. But the real test came one evening when Zara became seriously ill. She had been exploring a new section of her world's crystal caves when she was exposed to a rare mineral that proved toxic to her species. Within hours, she was too weak to leave her bed, her normally bright skin dim and flickering. Alex was in the middle of a diplomatic meeting on Earth when he received the emergency message. Without hesitation, he ended the meeting and demanded that his doctors find a way to help her, even though they knew nothing about her species' medicine. I don't care what it takes, he told his medical team. Find a way to reach her worlds. Doctors, set up a communication link. Do whatever is necessary. For 3 days, Alex barely slept. He coordinated between Earth's medical experts and Zara's doctors, helping to translate between their very different approaches to healing. He even volunteered to test potential treatments on himself first, to make sure they wouldn't harm her. You don't need to do this, Zara whispered weakly during one of their video calls. We barely know each other. That's not true, Alex said firmly. I know that you laugh when you're nervous, that you can't stand the taste of bitter things, and that you care more about other people's happiness than your own. I know that you hum crystal songs when you think no one is listening, and that you're afraid of disappointing your mother. That's not barely knowing someone. That's friendship. Zara felt tears forming in her large eyes. No one from her own world had ever understood her so clearly. The turning point in her recovery came when Alex made an incredible sacrifice. His doctors discovered that a rare flower from Earth's mountains contained properties that could neutralize the poison in Zara's system. But getting the flower would require Alex to cancel important peace negotiations that had taken months to arrange. The negotiations can be rescheduled, Alex told his advisors. Zara's life cannot be. He personally flew to the mountain region and spent days searching for the rare flower in dangerous conditions. When he finally found it, he had it rushed to Zara's world on the fastest ship available. The flower worked perfectly. Within hours of receiving the treatment, Zara's strength began returning, and her skin started glowing with its natural blue light again. You saved my life, she told Alex once she was well enough to sit up in bed. You risked everything for someone you've only known for a few months. No, Alex corrected her gently. I risked everything for someone I care about deeply. There's a difference. But Alex faced his own crisis soon after. Political tensions on Earth reached a breaking point when several nations threatened to withdraw from the alien alliance, claiming that marriage to an otherworldly being would make their prince unfit to rule. Protests erupted in major cities, and Alex found himself under enormous pressure to abandon the engagement. This time, it was Zara's turn to help. Using her world's advanced technology, she was able to project herself as a hologram into Earth's United Council chambers. Her appearance there was unauthorized and risky, but she couldn't stand by while Alex faced this alone. Honorable leaders of Earth, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the great hall. I understand your concerns about your prince marrying someone from another world, but I want you to know that Alex has shown me more kindness, courage, and genuine care than many beings from my own species. The council members stared in amazement at the glowing figure before them. Your prince didn't have to risk his life to save mine, but he did. He didn't have to spend sleepless nights learning our language and customs, but he did. He chose to see me not as a strange alien creature, but as a person worthy of friendship and respect. If these are the qualities that make him unfit to rule, then I fear you don't understand what true leadership means. Her words, broadcast across Earth's networks, began to change public opinion. People saw not a frightening alien trying to manipulate their prince, but a being who clearly cared about him as much as he cared about her. After the crisis passed, Alex and Zara realized something important had happened between them. What had started as duty and grown into friendship was becoming something deeper. I have something to confess, Alex said during their next conversation. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is talking to you. When something interesting happens, you're the first person I want to share it with, and when you were sick, I felt like part of my own soul was dying. Zara's skin shimmered with soft pink and gold, colors that on her world meant deep affection and trust. I feel the same way. Somewhere along the line, you stopped being the human I had to marry and became the person I can't imagine living without. So, we're not just doing this for our worlds anymore. No, Zara said softly. We're doing this for us too. As they prepared for their upcoming wedding, both realized that they had achieved something remarkable. They had taken an arranged marriage between strangers and transformed it into a love story that spanned the stars. The scared princess who had once asked why she had to marry a human had found her answer. She didn't have to marry him, she wanted to, and that made all the difference in both their worlds. The wedding day had finally arrived, and it was unlike anything either world had ever seen. Princess Zara stood in her crystal chamber, looking at herself in the mirror one last time as a single woman. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece that took months to create, flowing fabric from Earth woven together with living crystal threads. From her home world, The gown seemed to breathe with its own light, shifting between soft blues and warm golds. As her emotions changed, "Are you nervous?" asked Kira, her best friend, who was helping with the final preparations. Strangely, no, Zara replied, touching the delicate crystal flowers in her hair. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Meanwhile, on Earth, Prince Alex was having his own moment of reflection. He stood in his palace gardens, wearing a formal suit decorated with small crystal gems that Zara had sent him, a way of carrying a piece of her world with him. His best friend and advisor, Captain Reed, was adjusting his ceremonial cloak. "Second thoughts?" Reed asked, noticing Alex's quiet mood. "No second thoughts," Alex said, with a smile. Just amazement that something that started as a political necessity turned into the greatest blessing of my life. The ceremony was being held simultaneously on both worlds through advanced holographic technology. On Zara's planet, thousands of her people gathered in the Great Crystal Amphitheater, while on Earth, representatives from every nation filled the ancient cathedral where Alex's ancestors had been crowned. As the ceremony began, both bride and groom could see each other clearly despite being millions of miles apart. The holographic projection was so perfect that it felt like they were standing in the same room. Elder Kef, the oldest member of Zara's council, spoke first in the melodic language of her people. "Today, we witness not just the joining of two hearts, but the birth of a bridge between worlds. Princess Zara, do you take Prince Alex to be your partner in all things, to share in his joys and sorrows, to learn from his world as he learns from yours?" Zara's voice rang clear and strong. "I do, with all my heart and soul." On Earth, the Archbishop continued the ceremony in human tradition. "Prince Alex, do you promise to love and cherish Princess Zara, to honor her gifts and wisdom, to stand by her side whether on Earth or among the stars?" "I do," Alex replied, his voice filled with emotion. "Today and always." The moment came for them to exchange vows they had written themselves. Zara went first, her skin glowing with warm, loving colors. "Alex, when I first learned I had to marry a human, I thought my life was ending. I couldn't have been more wrong. You showed me that love isn't about finding someone just like you. It's about finding someone who makes you want to become the best version of yourself. You taught me that differences aren't barriers to overcome, but gifts to celebrate. I promise to spend every day learning from you, laughing with you, and building a future that honors both our worlds." Alex's eyes were bright with tears as he responded, "Zara, you came into my life like a shooting star, beautiful, unexpected, and impossible to ignore. You showed me that the universe is far more wonderful than I ever imagined. Your kindness, your wisdom, and your incredible spirit have made me a better man and a better leader. I promise to protect your world as fiercely as I protect my own, to cherish your unique gifts, and to love you with everything I have for as long as I live." The rings they exchanged were special too. Alex's was made from Earth's finest gold set, with a small piece of Zara's crystal, while hers was crafted from crystallized starlight set with a diamond from Earth's deepest mines. But the most meaningful part of the ceremony was the consciousness bonding ritual from Zara's world. She extended her hands toward Alex's holographic image, and somehow, across the vast distance of space, they were able to share a moment of true mental connection. For just a few seconds, Alex could feel what Zara felt, see through her eyes, and understand the depth of her love for him. "Incredible," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. The celebration that followed lasted for days on both worlds. But the real celebration came 6 months later, when the newlyweds were finally able to be physically together for the first time as husband and wife. Zara's arrival on Earth was broadcast around the world. As she stepped off the ship that had brought her across the galaxy, she was amazed by the crowds of humans who had gathered to welcome her. Instead of fear or hostility, she saw curiosity and warmth in their faces. "Welcome to Earth, Princess," said a small human child who had been chosen to present her with flowers from the royal garden. "Thank you," Zara replied, kneeling down to the child's level. Her ability to speak perfect English amazed the crowd. These flowers are beautiful. Do they sing like the ones on my world? No, the little girl giggled. But they smell really nice. Zara's first weeks on Earth were full of wonder and adjustment. She marveled at rain falling from the sky, laughed with delight at her first taste of chocolate, and spent hours walking through forests, amazed by trees that grew from the ground instead of floating in the air. Alex was the perfect guide, patient with her questions and excited to show her everything his world had to offer. In return, Zara shared stories of her home and taught him simple telepathic exercises that helped him understand her better. But their greatest joy came when they learned they were going to have a child. The news sent waves of excitement through both worlds. This would be the first human-alien hybrid ever born, a living symbol of the alliance between their species. Both planets' best scientists worked together to ensure the pregnancy would be safe for both mother and child. "Are you scared?" Alex asked one evening as they sat in their Earth garden, Zara's hand resting on her growing belly. "A little," she admitted. "Our child will be unique in the universe, part human, part crystal-born. They'll belong to both worlds and neither. Maybe. That's exactly what the universe needs," Alex said thoughtfully. "Someone who can truly understand both sides, who can help other species learn to work together like we have." "You're right," Zara said, her skin glowing with contentment. "Our child will be proof that love really can conquer any difference." 9 months later, baby Luna was born, a perfect little girl with her father's brown eyes and her mother's ability to glow softly when happy. She was healthy, beautiful, and absolutely adored by both worlds. As Zara held her daughter for the first time, she thought back to that day in the Crystal Hall when her mother had announced her engagement. She had asked why she had to marry a human, as if it were some terrible punishment. Now she knew the answer. She didn't have to marry a human. She got to marry Alex. She got to discover that love knows no boundaries, that families can be built across the stars, and that sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the most extraordinary destinations. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked, sitting beside her as she nursed their daughter. "I'm thinking about how wrong I was in the beginning," Zara replied. "I thought marrying you would be the end of my story. Instead, it was just the beginning of our greatest adventure." Alex kissed her forehead gently. "And what an adventure it's been." Outside their window, two worlds celebrated the birth of their princess, a child who would grow up knowing that the universe was full of possibilities, that differences were meant to be celebrated, and that love really could bridge any gap between the stars. The alien princess who had once protested her fate had found her destiny, and it was more beautiful than she had ever dared to dream.